Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Crystal. I'm a first-year student from MATI program at the University of Queensland. Acknowledgement of country. The University of Queensland acknowledges the traditional owners and their custodianship of the land on which we met. We pay our respect to their ancestors and their descendants who continue cultural and spiritual connection to country. We recognize their valuable contributions to Australia and global society. This is our ninth live interpreting forum for this semester. In this class, we invite guest speakers to give speeches on various topics in English, Japanese, or Mandarin, and our students provide consecutive or simultaneous interpreting services to the audience. Now, let me introduce today's guest speaker, Mr. J Hartmann. J Hartmann is a NATI certified Thai to English translator, a technology entrepreneur, and the co-founder and CEO of AcudocX, an innovative platform reshaping the future of certified translation. Dylan's connection to language and culture began early. He attended Chiang Mai International School in northern Thailand, where he first developed a passion from cross-cultural communication. At just 18 years old, he spent 8 months interpreting at a children's refuge in Chiang Mai, assisting young people at risk of human trafficking, a formative experience that shaped his lifelong commitment to ethical and meaningful translation work. He later earned a Bachelor of Arts in Thai Language and Culture from Matharan University and a Master of Studies in Applied Anthropology and Participatory Development from the Australian National University. Dylan has also contributed to the profession through his work with the Queensland Committee of Audit, the Australian Institute of Interpreters and Translators, where he served as State Secretary. In 2019, Dylan founded AcudocX to empower certified translators by combining self-service technology with human expertise. Today, AcudocX helps freelancers and language service providers worldwide deliver certified translations faster and more efficiently, while ensuring that human creativity, cultural understanding, and ethical responsibility remain at the center of the profession. Dylan's career reflects the innovation of the language industry itself. From humanitarian fieldwork to technology-driven innovation, today he will share insights on how students can build thriving resilient career in the language industry, and why human translators are more essential than ever in an AI-enabled world. Today, Mr. J Hartmann will share his insights and knowledge in his presentation entitled How to Thrive in the Language Industry. Simultaneous interpreting from English into Mandarin will be provided by our students on site. Mr. J Hartmann has kindly agreed to take questions from the floor at the end of the forum, so please make the most of this opportunity. Before we begin, please make sure that your mobile phone has been placed in silent mode and keep your microphone muted during the presentation. Now, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Mr. J Hartmann.
Thank you.
Thank you.
David. So I always love giving these talks. I can hear some interpreting sound coming from somewhere. I think it's these speakers. It might just put me off. If you could pull.
The sound is too loud.
I think that helps. Cool, all good. I love giving these kind of talks because I think back to when I was a student at university. I was studying Thai language and culture at Mephalong University in Thailand. And I never ever thought I'd be a language professional. There was nobody around to say, hey, if you dedicate your life to translation, you can make a really good, comfortable, sizable income and have a high quality of life. But what happened is I came back to Australia. I enrolled in the Applied Anthropology and Participatory Development course at the Australian National University and expected to be able to work in, let's say, NGO work or humanitarian aid or development kind of stuff. But what happened, similar to now, there was a federal election in Canberra, and when the coalition was elected back in 2014, the very first thing for them to cut was foreign aid from the Australian federal budget. So I think they cut $5.5 billion of foreign aid from the Australian budget. That meant 15,000 people in the aid and development sector effectively lost their job. So a fresh graduate like myself had no chance of getting any kind of work in that industry. Fortunately, since I had finished my bachelor's degree, I had been moonlighting as a freelance translator, and adding the credentials, a master's degree from a world-renowned university, meant I had access to some of the world's most, how would I say, I wouldn't say important, but highly relevant and very special translation jobs that needed cultural nuance and understanding, but also not to be based in Thailand. So my talk today will be focused on the core skills I feel you will need to make a livelihood in the translation industry. This talk I first gave was in 2021, and so I've had to update a few of the things because since then we've had the AI revolution, so to say. But regardless of AI being prevalent at the moment, the technology that we have developed is still highly relevant and perhaps more relevant now than ever. So, here we go. Translation isn't dead. This is the key lesson for today. There's a lot of fear mongering in the translation industry. The lives of professional linguists is over. You can give up now. AI has taken over. It's not dead, it's evolving. And your role as a professional linguist has evolved into somewhat of a quality manager, localization consultant, or someone with high levels of cross-cultural communication. Your skills as an individual who has knowledge not only of language but culture, which is tied to language, will always be needed, no matter how smart AI becomes. Now, there's never also been a better opportunity to specialize in something as well, because gone are the days of a language generalist. So in my introduction, we heard my interest has always been in development, anthropology, development aid kind of things. And this has led to some of the biggest contracts in translation of my career as well. So have some kind of a specialization and you will stand out. So the language industry in 2025 is now bigger than ever before. I just saw the stats for last year and it's valued at 70 billion US dollars. It's growing towards 100 billion in the next couple of years. There's demand rising in immigration, healthcare, legal and tech localization. And it's not only a role as a translator. Forget about the translator role. Your role should be as a language expert or a subject matter expert. So the world may speak English, but all official purposes will still need human oversight. a lot of the statistics that language companies have been sharing is that while AI and machine translation have been prevalent now for the last couple of years, it's not taking away from the tasks of a human specialist. It's in fact giving greater amounts of access to language services to people who perhaps wouldn't have used those language services before. Now, for example, if you have a website, it's easy to get it translated into 15 different languages. But what if you're selling high value goods? You would want somebody to check over it and make sure that it's correct, right? So it's enabling greater access, but more awareness of the language services. So like I said, this was first given a couple of years ago. And the title of this presentation was How to Maximize Your Income as a Certified Translator. Now, just for full disclosure, these are the sales figures from my company, J Hartmann Translation, over the last couple of years. And from 2020 to 2023, we've reached sales over 300,000 Australian dollars a year. Now, looking at the Australian Taxation Office statistics, where most interpreters and translators are earning in the range of $22,000 to $24,000 a year, you might recognize I might be doing something a little bit different. What I've focused, which you'll see in the next slide, is that translation language services are inherently a global market. It's a global service. And I feel a lot of the failures of Australian linguists is to focus on the local market. I agree. The NATI certification process is respected, but there just isn't enough work here to thrive. So you, in your position now as a student, you should be focusing on picking up work from overseas markets and earn in US dollars. And so that has been most of the reason why my sales figures were so high, because I've been quoting in US dollars, and the Australian dollar at the moment is very low. So it's never been a better time to earn USD. But yeah, so like I'm saying, why restrict oneself to the Australian market? The language industry is global, and there's a lot more volume in the other markets. Now, what's your perspective of our profession? And I feel if you approach this question from what do you want to get out of being a translator, it will become a lot more useful than saying, okay, I'm a language expert. I want to just do language all day. Like I alluded to earlier, I never wanted to be a translator. I felt there was no creativity in doing translation. You're just regurgitating somebody else's work. So for me to spend long hours working on something that I perhaps might not enjoy, I needed another reason to be effectively chaining myself to the computer screen for hours on end. So I am not a translator. I don't refer to myself as a translator. I am not a business person. I am not a software developer, for example. You need to find your grounding. So what am I? I am a father. I am a husband. I am a cyclist, and I love going for runs. I'm a creator of literature, of music, of art. Okay, there is one caveat, that is translated literature. So find something that you have a passion for, and that will help you to survive as a freelancer in this industry. So here's some lovely pictures of my family. I have 3 daughters, I have a wife, we all play music together, I translate literature, that's what I do for fun. I'm also quite an active runner and cyclist, and today I brought in my running partner, Willow. I'm sorry if you can't see her in the video, but I've brought my poodle with me. So I am a language professional in the age of AI. How have we done this? Well, there's a crossroads in today's day of age. There is the tech-only approach that companies can take, which has its own inherent risks. The preferred approach, however, is tech plus human skill. Now, how do we go about this? Well, let's ask that question again. What is translation to me? Translation is a means to afford a lifestyle that I love. And like I said before, there have been times where I'd be working long hour stints. When you've got something like, I think my record was 34,000 words in less than 24 hours. If you can do that, it means you don't get to sleep. You need to have some kind of other driving focus or push to get you through those translated words, especially when most of my specialization in translation is clinical trials, life sciences, mostly regulatory materials that honestly will never be read by a human being. They're purely for regulatory compliance, doing ethics committee letters, anything for research. And when you're spending hours and hours on end translating this material that nobody's ever going to read, it can feel a bit depressing. So you need to have a focus on what is your driving factor. There are some future-proof skills that AI will never replace. That is critical thinking, cultural sensitivity, ethics, and quality assurance. And so with that driving factor, to be able to push yourself through, make deadlines on time, see your value as a human being as well. Because maybe 4 years ago, we could have questioned the quality of ChatGPT. That was ChatGPT 3.0. Now, the advances that even AI has made it's a lot better than a bad translator, you could say. So yeah, we are not competing with AI by being faster. We are more precise, more ethical, and more culturally attuned. Now, with a primary focus of earning money from translation, I found the most lucrative fields that I could comfortably handle and made them my specialization. So while I love to translate literature, there's no money in literature. You can't feed a family of 5 unless you're very lucky. While I love to do development and aid work or any kind of NGO translations, there's not enough demand for specialists in those fields to be able to earn a decent livelihood. So what I found was by focusing on learning and specializing in a field such as life sciences, where there's always going to be a demand for a human specialist, or even if it's a human post-editing machine translation reviewer, there's always going to be work, and it's high-paid work for a high level of skills. I didn't have a background in medicine or science, but I passed all of the tests that were given to me, and I did my own research and did a lot of self-led learning to be able to get better at that field. Now, when you start out as a translator, where do you find the work? I started out as a translator in Thailand, and the way the Thai industry pays translator is based on per page. And the going market rate back in 2011, 2012, was about 100 baht, Thai baht per page. 100 baht, literally these days is $4 per page. Now, if I could translate 10 pages a day, well, that gives me 400 baht, or 1,000 baht. This is enough to eat at restaurants or buy yourself a couple of beers or something. It is a comfortable salary, and I was just learning by doing on the job and picking up any kind of freelance work that I could get, I began getting, let's say, a better relationship with one of the agencies who kept on sending me work. And she said, "Hey, Dylan, you're a native English speaker. What are you doing working on the Thai market? Why don't you get work for the international agencies?" And I said, "Well, how do you find them?" And she said, "Haven't you heard of pros.com?" So pros.com is one of the world's most active directories for professional translators. And my biggest regret with pros.com is not signing up when I was a student like you guys, because it records the date that you sign up. Sure, you can say, "Oh, okay, I've been a translator for the last 10 years, but there is evidence on your profile of the date that you signed up. And that is a good indicator of when you started being a professional translator. So there's nothing stopping you. It's free. Sign up today if you don't already have an account. But then when there's thousands of people in your language pair, how do you get noticed? Now, there's something called kudos on pros.com. And it's effectively a directory a directory for translators to ask terminology questions and receive answers from other translators. And you can grade who gave the best result, and the person who gave the best result gets 4 points, something like that. And the more points that you build up adds to your directory listing on pros.com. So I was, for years, maybe 3 or 4 years, I was psychotic trying to answer the first pros kudos question. And there was a competition between me and another translator for years and years and years, until both of us dethroned the person who had been the top of the directory for 10 years or whatever. And now we're both sitting at 1 or 2. And it's really great fun, particularly if you have other peers, and it's a healthy competition, because it doesn't just reward the first person to answer with a single word. You need to provide research, you need to provide evidence, and not only is it good practice for yourself about terminology, you get rewarded by a directory listing. Now, like I said, it took me 3 or 4 years to get to the top of the Thai language directory. But when I was either in the first top 10 or the top 5, I started getting noticed by the major international agencies. And so a slide later on, I'll show you, out of the world's top agencies, I'm working for most of them. Now, what makes you unique as a translator? Okay, so how do you stand out? These are the basic things: your language ability, how many years you've spent in the source language country, your education and your certification status. That's just your bread and butter stuff. But what makes you unique? Like I shared earlier in the introduction, I spent almost a year in a refuge for migrant children in northern Thailand. And so I had a real deep connection to doing humanitarian aid work. I had hands-on experience in the field doing that kind of stuff. So that gave me, a level of justification to be hired to do major development work. Some of the biggest development work that I've done, apart from mines and dams and stuff like that, the latest one was for the construction of a third runway at one of Thailand's major international airports, and they had to do an environmental and health impact assessment. And so who stands out of everyone when you're needing to translate the impact on local villages of a new runway? Well, they looked at me, looked at my experience, looked at my background, and how does he stand out? Wow, he's got all of this experience working in humanitarian as well. So tick, tick, tick the box. Tick the box, he's better than ChatGPT, for example. But also, never forget that it is market competition. We can all have a level of professional solidarity as translators, but at the end of the day, we are competing with other translators in our language pair, and you need to stand out, okay? So I created I don't know if you can have a look at these slides after the presentation, but this was the translation cover letter that I used to introduce myself. And it goes step by step how to introduce yourself, how to guarantee that you have quality, give a bit of your experience and your background, your cultural competency, the tools and platforms you use, and so on. Otherwise, screenshot or take a photo of this, because it took me years to generate this format that worked when introducing yourself to new companies to work with. But then again, when you've got all of the background, when you've got the experience, when you're ready to go, where do you find the agencies to work with? I can guarantee it's never the agencies who are advertising to find translators that you want to work with, because often on international directories, those who are advertising want to find the cheapest translator to work with. They're not gonna want to find you. So there are a couple. There's one called the Slater Top 100 LSP list, and there's also NIMZI. I should have included that as well. It's NIMDZI, and through either of these, media organizations in the language industry, you can find the world's top 100 LSPs to work with. I wouldn't recommend starting at the top. I would recommend starting at the bottom and building up experience, because if you ever get an opportunity to work with, let's say, the Transperfect or the RWS or the Line Bridges of the world, We Localize and so on, you want to be top of your game, because these guys here, Transperfect, if you sign up with them at a low rate, I guarantee you're never going to be able to raise your rates. And for example, if you sign up with them at 4, 5, 6 cents per word, and once you finally graduate your master's degree and say, hey, I feel like I'm worth 12 cents now, they're not going to accept this. They never ever raise their rates. So it's a good tip to only approach these guys when you have experience, when you have experience and the qualifications ready to handle the kind of volume that they can provide. Still to this day. So these ones with the ticks are the ones I'm currently working with. 3 years ago, I had half of the top 10 LSPs, but there has been a couple of changes, and maybe I should start marketing again. That was my question when I was preparing this slide. So RWS, for example, they were $1 billion company, and they've now lost a lot of their share value. Transperfect is a $1 billion company. They can provide an endless amount of work for you. 24 hours a day. You can work 24 hours a day if you like for these kind of works. But the value is now I'm not translating full time. I can go and still pick up a job because they're coming through every single day, all day, every day. Pick up a job if you like. So let's talk about rates. Rates is a funny topic these days because there's so many impacts that can affect your rates. This is the way we structured it. So you need to identify your target client. Often on the international market, they don't care about certification, they care about experience and your level of competency in a certain specialization. If you are NADI certified, great, but it doesn't mean anything to an international client, So there's a tool on pros.com for you to research the rates, the average rates in your language pair. Recognizing that some language directions are going to be more valuable than others is typically based on market dynamics. So you can simply Google pros.com rates and see what other people are charging for your language. Now, a way to work out your own rate I've got here in point number 3. Try to determine how much would you like to earn in a day? What is the volume of work that you can translate or review in that day, and divide it. So here, if I want to earn $350 a day, divide that by 2,500 new words in a day, I should be charging around 14 cents per word. So machine translation post-editing rates are about half of that. Yeah, the next tip is don't ever quote in Australian dollars, because it doesn't mean anything to an international client. And expecting them to work out the exchange rate is not going to do any favors to you. So quote in USD or EU for EU agencies, or in British pounds if they're located in the UK, depending on their location. USD is typically acceptable worldwide. And like I mentioned earlier, be careful. It's very hard, almost impossible to raise your rates with agencies once you have it locked in. So the other tip is to offer a variety of services. So this top rate is one that my translation company offers, which is translation, editing, and quality control. Then you have a lower rate for translation and editing. These are completed by individuals. Then a rate for translation, and then lower than lower than lower. And if there is any kind of task that isn't charged per word, quote an hourly rate for those tasks. You can also set a minimum to half an hour. Now there's a range of different services that you can offer. Translation, editing, quality control, desktop processing, localization. Localization was a funny one that I never expected to be able to make a decent livelihood from. But the amount of American English work that needed localizing into Australian English really surprised me. Not only for the life sciences work, but I can talk about it now, it was 10 years ago. I had a job for Microsoft once, and they were trying to advertise the new Xbox. And at the time, I thought, okay, read the materials, it seemed fine, but there's something funny that stuck out, and let me know if you can tell. So the marketing slogan in American English said, "Come inside, escape the cold this Christmas, come and play our hot new games." And I thought, okay, that's interesting. Hold on, if we're selling in Australia, Christmas time, it's not winter here in Australia. So how would I change it? So I changed it from come inside, escape the heat this Christmas, come and play our cool new games. And yeah, that ended up being the marketing campaign for Xbox that year. So cognitive debrief is a different one, a sort of localization where, let's say, clinical trial questionnaires are tested on a range of participants to determine the cultural appropriateness of those questions. And there are a number of questions. You can run these kind of services. So it's expanding your role more than a translator to a language specialist or a language expert. So CAT tools and machine translation post-editing. You need to have familiarity with these kind of tools to work with any major agency. A question I often get is, okay, well, what CAT tool should I buy? And the answer is, it really depends. It depends who's going to be sending you the most work. So if you have to pay to use the CAT tool, well, use the tool that your number one agency prefers. Now, post-editing is now standard. AI-powered CAT tools now suggest translations, but they require this human oversight. And it's not always correct. It might pull out stuff, it might hallucinate. It's pretty bad at translating proper nouns, we find. So you need to have that critical oversight. There's a number of top tools, MemoQ, Trados, WordFast, and Lilt, for example, and other emerging API-connected workflows such as Phrase or SmartCat, where a human in the loop is often used to refer to this language specialist. So what does AI mean for your future career? Well, I can say with a definite response that AI is here to stay, but it doesn't replace professional translation where accuracy, liability, and cultural nuance matter. And particularly with this liability, when we're talking about certified translations, if there's something wrong, the certified translator typically has to show up in court and testify that that translation is correct. That's the whole point of being a certified translator. There's other opportunities with machine editing, post-editing, AI training, correcting outputs and evaluating quality. Has anyone got experience doing AI prompt engineering? I mean, that's a new role for a language expert. Terminology management and cultural adaptation. So to succeed in the language industry at the moment, it's good to have a winning mindset, be faster, use tech as much as you can, stay human where it matters, and have this strong sense of creativity, cultural understanding, and judgment. Here we go. The 3 skills that AI can't replace is creativity, critical judgment, and deep cultural fluency. So I was talking about rates a little bit earlier and offering a variety of services. How have I been able to succeed and have a sizable income as a translator? It's by forming a team with my trusted colleagues. So myself, I can be the lead of the team. I have the best qualifications, I'm certified, I'm experienced, but often there's a huge demand for my services that I could never, ever cope alone. And so what I did was I hired the intern who originally worked with me at a Thai university. She was native bilingual, based in the source language company. And it's funny when you meet a Thai who has a British accent, and but yeah, her English was impeccable. So native bilingual, half Thai, half British, and she was able to take all of my overflow. But then there were times when us working as a team, we needed a third person to be able to proofread our work and ask us to review anything as well. And so we hired a third person who had a high level of experience and talent, intelligent, but were not a native English speaker. And so on the international market, native target fluency is typically the requirement. And so having this third person to work as a quality checker, we were able to give him a reduced rate, because it was still, whatever reduced rate we were offering was still better than what he could have got on the market himself. The third service, so 1, 2, and 3 is us offering translation, proofreading, and quality control. So 3 individual steps by 3 individual linguists. The 4th service is desktop processing. Now, working with major agencies who are dealing with a lot of content, we would always spot errors in the source material. And we found out it's because they were getting scanned PDFs and running it through an OCR software and expecting that their AI algorithm would be able to fix it all up. And it was creating source errors. And so what we did is we hired a number of just high school graduates who would be willing to proofread OCR output. And as a professional linguist, I tried to do it myself once, thinking, oh, this is easy. It's so frustrating trying to fix computer errors. So we found a team who's happy to do that, and it has ended up being one of the most stable and valuable services we offer, because when, for example, let's think about one segment in a 10,000 word job. You've got one segment with 200 or 300 words, and if there are a couple of typing mistakes, that segment can go from a gold 110% match to anywhere from an 80 to a 90% match. Now, if it was a gold 110% match, that translation agency isn't having to pay anything. They have to pay zero for it. If it is an 80 or 90% match within the CAT tool, they might be paying upwards of $15 to $20 for one single segment within a CAT tool. And so having accurate source material is highly valuable to these translation agencies or anyone dealing with millions and millions of words. So that is why building a team for us with DTP to handle that quality control has been really, really successful. The other crazy thing is here we are in Australia, probably one of the worst time zones, best and the worst, to do business internationally, because in our very early mornings, the rest of the world is signing off. For example, I've been back from North America for a week now, but my body clock hasn't been able to readjust to Australian time zone because I'm having to meet 3 a.m. every morning, 4 a.m. every morning. Today, the meeting started from 3 a.m. and my last meeting will be at 10 p.m. tonight. So, when I recognized that most of my work is coming from the United States, I adjusted my body clock to start waking up before 4 a.m. In order to be able to catch most of those jobs and respond to most inquiries before the rest of the country wakes up. Halfway through the day, Hong Kong will come online and begin sending work, then Geneva, and then London, and eventually it's time to go to bed. Now, keeping organized as a freelancer is really important as well. So if you let your email inbox get out of control, you're going to lose work. So I use a platform called Superhuman, which helps me manage with the use of AI, helps me manage all of my email inquiries, but then never forget about jobs that are in progress. So we have a tool called lsp.expert. It is a project management tool for freelancers, and it allows you then to start outsourcing work. It allows you to do invoicing and a lot of other kind of management stuff as well. So have a look at that, lsp.expert. Finally, invoicing. Do it as regularly as possible because many agencies still require you to send a manual invoice, and you can use something like Excel, other accounting software, QuickBooks or Excel, to make sure these kind of administrative tasks don't hold you back from earning money. Okay. So also, the question is, how do I get paid? A lot of translators here will expect an American organization to pay into their Commonwealth bank account or Australian bank account. That's not always possible. So I recommend using something like Wise, where you can get paid in US dollars and convert that online into Australian dollars and then pull it out into your bank account. Because when you're getting paid in primarily US dollars, you can effectively be losing thousands of dollars a year just in poor exchange rates. And so try to get the best out of every transfer and avoid any kind of fees that you can. Now, what about the naughty jobs? So why did I return to Australia? I was very comfortable living in Thailand, like you call it a digital nomad kind of lifestyle, living with my young family, earning US dollars in Thailand. The cost of living is very cheap there. We were very comfortable. And then in 2016, we had the latest coup d'etat, where the military took over the government. And no, that's okay. It's not great for the Thais, but I've been through coups before. And as a foreigner, if you can just keep your mouth shut, don't get involved, it'll all blow over eventually, right? Until the military junta, they shut down the country's biggest gold mine. Now, that gold mine was owned by an Australian company, and that Australian company raised a $1 billion lawsuit, a litigation against the Kingdom of Thailand. And so I got a call from TransPerfect actually, saying, hey Dylan, we really need your help on a project. We have 1 million words that needs translating from Thai to English. We can't tell you about the project. We can't show you any of the materials until you've left the country. And I thought, that's a good reason to come back to Australia. So being the responsible parent I am, I thought, okay, if I bring my eldest daughter back to Australia, it's the Southern Hemisphere, schools start earlier here. I can give her a head start in Australian school before we go back to Thailand. So I came back, moved to my parents' house in northern New South Wales. They live in a town called Nimbin. And it's a very hippie kind of area. I put my daughter in a kindergarten in like the hills behind Nimbin. It was very picturesque, very hippie. And after a couple of weeks, she called her mum, who was still in Thailand, and said, Mum, I really like it here. I don't want to go back. And, that convinced my wife, okay, she was sick of Thailand as well. We moved back to Australia and I became NAATI certified. Now, I got that. I was working on this 1 million word translation, averaging about 120,000 words a month translation. So very, very high workload. What I never expected to happen after being NAATI certified was for my phone and my email to start blowing up with customers calling me with a single page document translation. Now, I can finish a licensed translation in, less than 5 minutes, but all of this administrative work, having to pick up and answer the phone, having to send them an invoice, wait for that invoice to be paid, when you receive the translation, having to send back to the customer and ask all of these questions about name spelling, this or that. One $25, $30 job might take me an hour, but more importantly, it was taking my time and attention away from what was actually helping me survive as a professional. So we were developing AcudocX. It was purely devised as a way to help the customers who are reaching out to me process their own translations in advance, pay in advance. And so when I was receiving the translation job, it had already been 95% complete. It had already been paid for. I hadn't had to talk to the customer, and all of my attention just went into translating or verifying that the translation was accurate. Tick a button and it would go straight back to them without any calls or emails. And so we developed AcudocX first and foremost as a tool for freelance translators, recognizing that to survive as a freelance translator, you need a broad array of different work, and mostly to survive you need to be focusing on high volumes of work as well. You can't expect to survive as a freelance translator just doing NAATI jobs, just doing personal document translations. And so this we launched in November 2019, exactly 3 months before international border closures. And if you remember, Australia was probably the strictest. And what happened during that period is that we realized, okay, we've got a good tool for translators. None of the translators are getting work though, but the translation agencies are still out there advertising their services to individuals. So we added on a dashboard for translation agencies or LSPs, and that's where we've seen all of our growth as a platform, which is, it's a coincidence because we had created the platform as a tool for freelancers to compete with agencies. And then again, we've now got agencies utilizing the most out of our platform as well. So AcudocX helps everyone in the process. It helps translators finish work faster. It gives more competitive rates to customers. But for agencies, it allows them to offer this service without having to dedicate time, resources, or project management staff to a type of work that they typically want to refuse. There are some translation agencies in Australia and overseas who've been able to scale this service by hiring, let's say, offshore call center operatives, like for project management. I like to call them like your sweatshop project management staff. They're locked in offices in the Philippines or in Mumbai, with questionable work conditions. What AcudocX has been able to do is leverage the professionalism and the skills and the competency of certified translators. So there's no need to have an intermediary. There's no need to have a project manager in between the translator and the customer. So yeah, AcudocX its mandate is to only utilize certified translators, because certified translators have been validated, their quality has been validated by a third party organization, but also we adhere to a code of ethics. And that is highly important when communicating directly with customers. So it allows translators and agencies to set their price and offer this to the general public. In technical terms, it is an automated workflow with an integrated community of certified translators. And yeah, that's what I've been spending the last 4 weeks in the United States and Canada selling. And what I can say now is that we've got a large number of American LSPs who are ready to start using the platform, and we're able to utilize our Australian translators to complete this work for the American market. So my vision is to create a platform that can increase the scope and volume of work available to NAATI certified translators, because I believe our credentials and our testing process is some of the best in the world. Just Australia is too small to allow any of us to survive. So with that being said, I want to thank you everyone for your time today. Thank you to all of these great interpreters in the booths. Come down and talk if you have any questions after this. Or I don't know if it's too early. Yeah, we can talk it after this. So I appreciate your time and all your efforts. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hartmann, for your wonderful presentation. Now I would like to open the floor to questions. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. Turn on your microphone and state your name before you begin.
Any questions in the chat?
I will be the first one to ask a question, if you don't mind.
Of course.
I'll just stay a bit close to the mic so that people on Zoom can hear me clearly. You mentioned that for those international agencies, they seldom raise their rates.
Yeah.
I wonder, because of inflation, do translators just leave those international agencies and find others that are more fair?
I found personally the best approach is to find other new agencies. So when you start working with an agency at a certain rate, like I said, it's hard to get that rate increased. But you can always, let's say, as a freelancer, you should always be marketing yourself to new opportunities as well. Spending at least 50% of your time marketing, because there are always new opportunities out there. And when you have a decent enough volume of work, all new jobs that you're going to quote, just set a higher rate. You might not always get them, but some of them you will.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? I'll just check Zoom if there are any questions on Zoom. Okay. Well, people are thinking, I'm going to pose the second question if you don't mind. We know that interpreters and translators evolve over time, so we build up more experience. I wonder if you look back, what kind of new skills and new experience have you accumulated over the years?
Definitely so I've been spending the last couple of years with software developers, and I realize now that software developers are in fact linguists, but linguists with an engineering kind of mindset rather than a creative mindset. I feel that often, interpreters and translators might have a creative or more of a literary mindset, whereas the software developers, they're dealing with language as well. It's just a computer language these days. And I realized that, okay, now with the, software and development being a lot more open, particularly with use of AI and prompting and getting highly detailed prompting is something that linguists have a very high skill level to do. And so when you understand language, you can design language in a way that a computer will understand it, or design it in a way that gets your ultimate outcome a lot better than somebody speaking in more generic kind of language. And so this is something that I've learned a lot from, and we've implemented it in our own development as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions?
It's okay.
If you don't mind, I'm going to ask the third question.
Go ahead.
I also do translation in my spare time.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is a level of skepticism in our profession regarding how AI would challenge our T&I profession.
Yeah.
So what do you say to those colleagues who are worried that they may be replaced by AI?
Like I said, you just have to use it as a tool. So you acknowledge that AI is a tool, and it's not us versus AI. It's us using AI to perhaps, provide a better service, faster service, higher quality than a traditional linguist not using AI. I feel that only those translators or linguists who aren't using AI are destined to be replaced.
Mm-hmm.
Except for a field like literary translation, where I feel that there will always be a level of integrity and non-AI usage. There are also other fields such as legal fields and some medical fields that are dealing with confidential data that will not allow the use of LLMs or generative AI.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a burning question that just came to mind.
Go ahead.
Sometimes when I compare AI translation with the students' translation, I sometimes realize that AI does a better job than our postgraduate students.
Right.
So what is your perspective on that?
Yeah.
What kind of advice do you give to our students to encourage them?
Yeah, use it, and definitely use it, and use it within the boundaries. Okay, like if your inputs are being used to train AI models, that might not be ethical. So just watch what you're putting into it. But definitely, now you need full comprehensive understanding and abilities and skill set to use AI as a tool. And at the end of the day, it's the quality of the translation that stands. It's not the tools that you use to get to that point. And so, yeah, if you can use something that provides a better result, go ahead, definitely use it. I mean, I remember when machine translation or Google Translate was first released, it was terrible. And I was part of the team training the neural machine translation model for Thai into English. And at the start of the project, they had a Zoom meeting group call, and looking around at every other translator in the room and hearing them talk, I realized, okay, Google Translate, even with the NMT, is not going to be good for Thai for a very long time, because every other translator in that room were non-native with a questionable background. And so these things all play a role in the quality of the technology that you're using. So a model based on bad training data will still be a bad output. The languages that have the most volume, most amount of training data, say, your major languages, Arabic, Chinese, Spanish, and so on, their quality is probably a lot better than my language, which is Thai, which you can see many problems in it still with the best AI.
I wonder, do you translate in both language directions or just from English, just from Thai to English?
Thai to English. And it's for two reasons. First, because I can perhaps guarantee better than anything the quality of my output into my mother tongue, which is English. Maybe there's three reasons. Secondary reason is it's a lot faster for me to translate into English. And third reason is that the English into Thai market is dominated by Thais based in Thailand, who are able to quote maybe 1/5 the rate that I would charge. So yeah, there are other kind of market dynamics that would make the price a lot lower for that direction.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
But I'm happy that you have enough work, like more than enough work to sustain yourself.
Well, I was just at the gala, so the Global Association of Localization in Montreal a week ago. And there were other highly successful freelancers there. And I feel that with this latest push with AI, it's allowed those of us who have grasped technology for years now to really streamline and scale the services that we're providing. And he flew from Europe to Montreal in first class. I was just flying business. So it allows you, the tools these days, as a qualified and highly trained professional, it allows you to generate a whole lot more volume than was ever imaginable before. And even if those rates are low, if I can do 120,000 to 140,000 words a month at a lower rate, it's better than somebody. I feel like the chair of Nati was sharing something about quoting 40 cents per word. I mean, that's insane. You wouldn't get more than a couple of hundred words a week at that rate, surely. So look where the volume of the work is, see where you can maximize your potential and your earning ability. Because effectively you want to be working 8 hours a day, and I feel there is still that option on the international market.
Thank you so much.
You're more than welcome. Does anyone else have questions?
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, I have a question. I noticed that you have a really lovely family and a cute dog. And at the same time, you handle thousands of translations and words. And I was wondering, how do you balance your work and your life?
Great question. So I was always a work-at-home dad. So with the birth of each of my children, I was at home. So I've always been at home with the kids and the family. And the children will understand when I'm working not to disturb me, and I will always have time for the children in my schedule. Actually, you can look at my schedule and you'll see there's a block of time locked off every morning. There's a block of time locked off where nobody can book a meeting with me because I'll be reading books to the children or having dinner and doing those kind of things. So I didn't used to do that, and I found I was always being pulled away by other kind of things. And so just to schedule these kind of things and keep them as your top priority really helps with your healthy family life. Yeah. Also, I mean, with the dog, and you saw like exercise, having something that gets you away from the computer, keeps you healthy, is very important as well. Mostly for translators who are stuck in front of screens all day long, you need to be able to get out and breathe and exercise. Otherwise, you have mental health issues and not only physical health issues. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for your answer. I love your answer.
You're welcome. Cool. Nice. Thank you. I have to say, 对不起，我不是中国人。我不是泰国人。我是 Australia 人。That's as much as I can remember. Yeah.
Oh, so you've been to the conference, the gala?
Yes, yeah.
Can you share some new information with us?
I feel now is, like I tried to encourage people in this talk, you need to be specialized in something. Stop referring to yourself as a translator. You are a language specialist. And the sooner that you can have a specialization in any kind of subject matter, the better. Because there is no room for generalists in the current industry. You need to be a highly valuable, trained, certified professional in a specific field, and something that allows you to stand out. I think that is the key, whether it is, you know, doing a postgrad in something or other that gives you a specialization, but something that you're passionate about and something that you can stand out will really help.
You mentioned specialization, and you shared with us your experience of training yourself in life science areas to work in that area. So do you think, are there any important skills that students need to acquire in order to be able to specialize in the areas that they like?
I was first given the test from, I think it was TransPerfect gave it to me in 2012, and I'd been translating professionally for 1 year. I saw the test and it freaked me out, and I said, I'll never be able to translate that. I got sent the same test another 3 years later in 2014, and I thought, okay, it still freaked me out. It was still really challenging, but I gave myself 3 days to complete it. And maybe it was 600 or 700 words, but some of the hardest content I've ever had to translate. I submitted it and I passed. That's all it needed. After that, I was able to build up a range of experience, just focusing 100%. Anything that I was weak in, I would focus on and study. And perhaps the key lesson here was studying material in the target language. So becoming well-versed in Australian clinical trial materials, Australian EC letters, because often even the translations, if you are to translate it literally, it'll be a completely different concept in the target language. So you need to build up your vocabulary and the specialized terminology. And that could have only been done by studying in depth the content in the target language and not studying translations. I think that was the key skill. Now, I mean, some people don't like life sciences. Some people prefer legal. Some people prefer, economic content or anything like that. It depends what you like. I enjoy life sciences because there was rarely any ambiguity. And so it made the translation fast and easy for me, where I could focus on the other things that I love. Yeah.
So I wonder, was it easy for you to pass the NAT exam? I think students would be interested to know.
Whenever I'm asked about NATI, so I went to an international school, which is the American curriculum. And before I sat the NATI exam, I would have said that the hardest test I'd ever taken was called the SAT, which is the American high school exam. So I did the SAT. Why was it hard? Because it judges your intellect or your aptitude. Yeah. You can't study for it. And that's what I felt was the same as the NATI. And so now definitely the NATI exam was the hardest test that I ever took. That wasn't for certification. I was accredited in 2017, and then it moved to the certification system. And the benefit of back then is you didn't have to study. Anyone could sit the test and become accredited. And so I did it and passed, and yeah, it was a challenge because back then we were only allowed to use paper and pencil to translate, and we're only allowed paper dictionaries. And I had never used a paper dictionary in all my language studies. So we always had the electronic dictionaries even before the smartphone. So that was the hardest thing for me, to find words in the dictionary that I didn't know. I found a thesaurus was a lot more valuable than my tidy English dictionary in that exam, because often I had the right word, but I wanted to use a different similar word to that was very valuable.
So the dictionary was just a reference,
Yeah.
like a kind of cue for you to think of a better option.
The thesaurus. Yeah, so I took in an English to English thesaurus, and that was definitely the most valuable resource in that test. But these days you can do it. Is it online, the NATI test now?
I think so.
It's so easy.
But we had a similar tests, because I got my accreditation in 2013.
Okay.
Yeah, same. We had to bring really thick dictionaries.
Yeah. I had as well. I had a huge pile of dictionaries. Do you have a question?
Yes, my name is Fernando. My question is, do you think there is a gap between the formal translation education, for example, MATI, towards the real-world translation?
I can't answer that because I didn't ever study as a translator or interpreter. I did language studies, but there was no more than one unit within my whole bachelor's degree that was even focused on translation. I feel like I want to emphasize again, it's important for you to be specialized in something, because I don't think there's much room for a generalist in anything. So like my own personal background in anthropology has led me to some of the big jobs because I've got that plus a translation skill. So yeah, if you can focus on something, if it's a passion that you have, or if it's a real interest in something else that will allow you to stand out, that would be valuable, I believe.
Yeah, so everybody needs to find their niche. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's why for some of our students, they have a BA in a different field,
Yes.
such as IT or finance. I think that helps them to specialize.
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge, but yeah, if you can grasp the use of technology and become specialized in something that you are passionate about, that will make things a lot easier, I feel. Did you have a specialization as well?
I specialize in business.
Okay.
I'm also very interested in medical and legal settings. Yeah,
Yes.
so I try to specialize in those three areas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt at one point in my career, it was 2019, I'd been translating life sciences material for 6 years or so. I was doing, over 1 million words, 1.5 million words a year translation. And, my children would see me working 16-hour days, never seeing them. But at any point in the future, if they were to Google my name, for example, there would be no results. And so they might be questioning, what has Daddy been doing for the last 10 years? There's no evidence. And so while I was having this existential crisis, an opportunity came up for me to submit an entry into Thailand's literature translation competition, and they had a requirement to submit a short story that had been published in the last 20 years. And fortunately, I had a book of short stories written about the 2001 tsunami in Thailand, which was a horrible event. And I found in that a story where it started off, a woman, a middle-aged woman, was sitting on the couch watching a video on repeat, and on the video it was a man, an image of a man standing on the beach as the huge big wave came crashing in from behind him. And just before the wave hit, it would flick onto the next image, And this woman was sitting on her couch just rewinding it. And her daughter comes in and says, "Mum, he's been dead for 2 years now. Why do you keep watching this?" And the mother responds, "I wanted to know if he suffered." And so the whole story is a dialogue between mother and her daughter, and it's a dialogue about grief. It ended up, I submitted that and it ended up becoming runner-up in the whole country for Thailand. And what it did was expose me as a translator to all of Thailand's top authors. And so now at my office, I've got a pile this big of the latest literature that I don't have any time to translate just yet. But that is the goal for the future for myself. Because I feel that I have a passion for literary translation, and if you're doing it without the expectation that you're going to earn something out of it, I feel that you can produce better art. But right now I need to survive. So.
Yeah, talking about the future, I was wondering, are you going to do the translation job in the next decade, or are you going to change to a different job at some point?
Well, I've been doing a very limited amount of translation myself. So I have a team, like I showed in the slide, who's doing a lot of the work at the moment, both with agencies around the world and assisting with the NAATI jobs to an extent. So I have one other NAATI certified translator who's working with us and doing all that kind of work. My role with translation, last year I had one that was a poem that was published by Penguin Random House in a book of story poems about rivers, and it was a 100-year-old poem that I translated that was written by a Buddhist monk. And so yeah, if I have any personal role as a translator moving forward, it'll be in literature and poetry.
Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. I'm happy to hang around as well if anyone wants to talk after this. Yeah, but thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Also, I'm sure we would all like to continue this discussion. Due to time constriction, we unfortunately must close today's forum here. Mr. Hartmann, thank you very much again for taking time out of your busy schedule to visit us today.
Thank you.
And for your most enlightening speech. I'm sure we have all learned a great deal today for your presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, please show your appreciation to Mr. Darren Hartmann with a big round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dylan. Here is a small present for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so much.
We don't have enough words to express
No,
our
it's
gratitude, but thank you so much.
Cool. That's cool. And I hope it was a challenge to everyone. I don't think I talked too fast, but I might have rushed through some sections. So I hope they did well.
Yeah, I think they survived.
When I was in the United States,